Welcome to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast with Darren Mitchell. If you're a sales leader looking to take your leadership to a whole new level, then this is the podcast for you. We'll be exploring tips, techniques, and strategies to help you take your leadership to the exceptional level and allow you to enjoy more money, more meaning, and better sales results. Welcome back to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast. Darren Mitchell here on what is a beautiful Wednesday morning here in Melbourne, but it's about 11:30 a.m. on Wednesday, but I'm talking to the great man Namit Jindal from New Jersey, which happens to be 9:30 on a Tuesday evening, and you're up late, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. Just another day in paradise.
We were talking just before about all things cricket and how you grew up in India for the first 17 years and moved around a little bit into the States when you went to college, and you now landed in New Jersey, and it's a beautiful place of the world.
Yeah, I love New Jersey. Close to the city, peaceful. I'm at my grandparents' house, so I think I have a great time with them.
Sensational. So you are the founder of a really interestingly named business known as Deliverability Ninja. And for the last couple of years, and I'd love to delve into your background and what led you to do this, but essentially today you help sales teams with their outreach, particularly around email, and love to talk to you about some of the intricacies of email, particularly from a selling point of view, because I know, having been in sales for a long, long time, there's sales teams and companies all around the world, even today, trying to look for what is the difference that's going to make all the difference to penetrate the marketplace and get our products and services in front of the right people. So I really enjoy this. I'm looking forward to this conversation. So before we jump into the intricacies of what you do today, just tell me a little bit about your background in terms of, I know you grew up in India, but what led you to this particular, enterprise that you're now involved in?
Absolutely. So how it started was my first job out of college was at this startup / company that was going in hyper growth mode. Founders were one of the smartest people I knew, and I was working in the founder's office under the CEO, doing rotations and just cutting my teeth in. So that was happening, and we used to have the sales channel essentially, and we used to have new meetings booked, and that just kept going off and off. That's when I was like, okay, this is a difference maker, and that's what really attracted to me to sales. Over time, I was hired to run a company, and my goal was hey, let's bring in revenue within 3 months.
Yep.
So turned to cold outbound, since that seemed like the best channel to get revenue fast. And I started burning domains. Okay. What that means is cold outbound worked for us day 1, day 2, day 3, it died. And I had no idea what was happening back then. So just kept researching into the space, fell in love with the idea that you can generate meetings and increase revenue for companies out of thin air. Practically spent all my time researching into the topic, falling in love with email, learning every single protocol possible, and started freelancing. Freelancing led to one other thing, and here I am helping companies double their open rates and reply rates now.
Nice. And we'll talk about what you actually do with Deliverability Ninja in this particular episode. What was it about? Because I know a lot of salespeople cut their teeth on cold outreach, telemarketing, cold calling, and things like that. What was it about email that was attractive to you?
I think it was the idea, but so I would say even though I'm not a full-time engineer, that's where my natural ability and knack is, right? Math, coding. It was the ability to combine automations and just sitting and being able to generate revenue, spreading message to the world.
Yeah.
It's a really cheap form of advertisement. That's how I think of cold email.
Okay.
And you can make it personalized with introducing AI. There's no ceiling to how good you can be in a sport.
Yeah.
And that's why cold email is something I absolutely love.
Without having to talk to another human being on the phone.
I mean, you actually have to talk to them. It's really hard. Eventually you do, but like, yes, you don't have to make 500 calls a day and get yelled at by people. So that's definitely nice.
Well, it's interesting because I speak to a lot of people in the space of running lead generation agencies, and some of them have outbound SDR campaigns they run, they outsource and so forth, and they say I reckon it takes a certain individual to sit on the phone for hours and hours and hours and just cop that rejection. It's a great initiation, and I've done it. I wouldn't want to do it today because I think there's other avenues to do it, but it is a way to get to your ideal customer. It just takes a lot of time.
Yeah, I think like cold calling is like one of the best things to learn. And I
Mm.
wish I did more of that. Like anyone I'm mentoring, people come to me asking me about internships. And my only thing is if you're in your first or second year of college and you've never done it,
Yeah,
you need to get a cold calling thing.
yeah,
But it's just like in a company to grow a company, you need every single engine working together.
mm,
And cold email is at a stage where like automations and me without having to look into it, it's just bringing in revenue for us, for our clients every single day, week. So that's pretty
yeah.
amazing.
Awesome. So you mentioned before that you were burning through domains. That it'd
Hmm.
be working on the first day, and by the third day, it'd be almost crashing and burning. I can't remember the exact word you used, but it wasn't working. What was it that you found? Because that would have been, I guess, the beginning of the research phase for you to try and work out what actually works for you. That's
Hmm.
probably led to, I guess, the system that you've put in place today. What was it about that? Why was the domains crashing? Was it the fact that we were sending out too many emails that weren't targeted? Was there something else? What was it?
So in reality, like Google and Outlook, they hate cold emails. They hate cold emailers. They don't want you using automations in the back end. That's the reality of it. And it's one of those necessary evils that like when you're sending emails to even a hyper targeted audience, some people just don't want your product.
Yeah.
Like you can have the best thing in the market. Like there are some people who still say that LinkedIn is terrible or
Yeah.
they hate Facebook. Like they're great products.
Yeah.
But so, I mean, there's D2C, but like some still you're selling to individuals at the end of the day. So, yeah, so when you do outreach at scale, you're not gonna get more than like 5% or 10% reply rates,
Yeah.
especially when you do it at like higher volumes.
Hmm.
So that if you're not doing following the correct practices, you're going you get into the sites of Google and Outlook, they're gonna ban your domain essentially. All your emails will start going to spam.
Yeah.
And what you start noticing is like there's no real way to tell that, hey, like there are ways, but there's no like label which Google and Outlook will give you that, hey, like your domain is spam now.
Yeah.
So you see a huge and sharp drop in reply rates and you can't figure out why.
Yeah. Yeah. And so through the process of the research that you're doing, and you mentioned there you're doing a bit of freelance work.
Hmm.
What what did you determine? Because there's probably a lot of organizations out there using email as part of their go-to-market strategy. Um,
Yeah.
what was it for you that uh, attracted you to the cold outreach versus other mechanisms, such as, marketing, outbound marketing in terms of, what would be Facebook ads or LinkedIn ads and things like that? Um, because when I look at it on the surface,
Hmm.
you think, well, okay, email. Everyone's got an email box.
Hmm.
Everybody gets inundated with emails every single day, right? And sometimes emails get caught up in the sea of all this stuff. So, what was it about email that you found or discovered through your research that said, you know what, I'm onto something here that's now
Hmm.
allowed you to start getting the results that you're getting for yourself, but also your clients?
Absolutely. So for me, I mean, like marketing, I would say like, so multiple parts to this question, right? Like, so 2 years ago, when this first started, ads was definitely an option. I was trying to play around with being scrappy
Hmm.
when I was like running the company and I was trying to be scrappy. So email just seemed like the numbers just felt insane. Like you can set up inboxes domains for like 12 US dollars and inboxes $7 US. So those numbers were extremely cheap. That's how I started the email.
Yep.
And first day of email sending ever, I booked like 12 meetings.
Wow.
So first day or ever, right? So that's what I was like, wait, this really works. Like I could not imagine booking 12 meetings via cold calling or Facebook posting.
Yeah.
Maybe ads would work, but even at like $100 cost per meeting,
Yeah.
that's like $30 versus 1200 USD.
Yeah.
So like, so that was the difference. And yeah, day three, when day two was like 9 meetings, pretty good. Day three was zero. So
Okay.
that's when I realized, wait, like there has to be a way I can keep this engine going.
Yeah.
So I solved it for the company I was running at that time. And after that, I started freelancing and I saw that people don't even realize they have this problem. Just because they haven't seen the 21 meetings ever, they're
Yeah.
happy with like one meeting a week, one meeting a month, somewhere here and there. And
Yeah.
they don't understand how email truly can work and what it can do for them.
Yeah.
That's how I came about it.
And so with that, because part of it's going to be okay, because I know in your the title of your business, it's Deliverability Ninja. So I know in the video you've got on your website, you talk about the fact that there's a lot of emails that never actually reach its destination because you go into the spam folder. And I know that a lot of the clients that I deal with, when I send them an email and they get it, but they respond back to me, I see on the email that comes back, when I send that email, it says warning external email, right? So it goes through some
Mhm.
sort of filter. But thankfully, they've put me on the whitelist 'cause I must be a nice person. So, but there's so many emails that never reach there. So
Mhm.
take me through, I guess, the thinking behind this, because one is to actually send out a stack of emails, right? Because
Mhm.
ultimately, as a sales team, as a sales leader, we want to get as many meetings booked as we possibly can and hopefully convert those into revenue. But it obviously has to be a system or a methodology that
Mhm.
is got a number of parts. One must be the deliverability. The second must be the message that you send. And
Mhm.
there's got to be other components such as, am I talking to the right customer, the right marketplace? So just take me through, I guess, the evolution of what you've discovered.
Yep.
Because when you throw out numbers like, wow, I got 12 meetings on the first day, right?
Mhm.
That's phenomenal, but it wouldn't have come by accident because you would have actually met a need in the marketplace.
Yeah. So the way we see cold outbound at Deliverability Ninja and like the method we've created is like we have a four-part system
Hmm.
that we work on. So number one is obviously deliverability,
Yeah.
right? This is something that I would argue 80 to 85% of B2B companies are facing problems with.
Yeah.
And this just like their open rates, their reply rates, everything signifies that, right? So we come in, we fix your deliverability, and that's the first part to it. Do you want me to go more into, do you want to talk more about how we do that, or do you want to listen to the four parts first? Because both of them are really interesting topics.
Yeah, well, I'd love to delve into it because people listening to this will be thinking, shit, we run different campaigns and we might have a telemarketing team, we might have SDRs, we might have BDEs.
Mhm.
We've got all these different strategies that we're running. But
Mhm.
my question is, as sales leaders, is the team maximizing the
Mhm.
fullest potential out of the strategy that they're using? So looking at things like deliverability of email, for example,
Mhm.
there could be some keys that can unlock more potential that they're overlooking right now.
Absolutely. So deliverability alone, right? Like this, for most sales leaders, this is a huge unlock once they figure it out. And how do they do that is like any sales leader listening to this should probably go back and look at their like open rates and reply rates.
Yeah.
These two are great indicators.
Yeah.
Open rates are inflated for everyone, and that just means that they're incorrect, they're inflated. But like if you're getting anything less than 20%, 25%, you're very likely to have a deliverability problem.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's a little bit technical aspects to it about who you reach out to. iPhone users have higher, but this is a very general statement that you should have more than 25% at least.
Yeah.
Then it's reply rates, not including out of office replies.
Yeah.
If you're having anything less than 2 to 5%, depending on the industry and who you reach out to, that's again a problem. You have a deliverability problem.
Okay.
Those two are great indicators.
Yeah.
Third one is bounce rates. If your emails are bouncing because your messages are rejected as spam, again, deliverability problem. So
Yeah.
these three show us. So how do you really solve that, right? The only way to solve that as of now is to purchase multiple domains and send really low volume from each domain.
Right.
And the best thing that a sales leader can do for his company is do not send cold emails from your main domain. What I mean by that is like you're gonna burn your main domain. Like in this digital world, it's so easy to change offices, but it's really hard to change your main domain. So do not send your cold emails because your main domain is going to get burnt.
Yeah.
Whether
Okay.
it's now or 6 months later,
Yeah.
that's what Google and Outlook are doing. So
Yeah.
that's your trade-off.
Wow. So, and don't send it from like Gmail or Outlook.
Now, so you can send it from Gmail or Outlook, just don't send it from your main domain. So
Yeah.
what I mean is like, for example, like our main domain is deliverabilityninja.com.
Yeah.
I've never sent an automated cold email from Namit at deliverabilityninja.com.
Yeah.
Like we own internally for myself, I own like 150 domains, which are like getdeliverabilityninja.com, try deliverabilityninja.com, and we use cold emails from that.
Okay. So
Then
it's still got your company name through it in the domain. So it's not just some random domain.
now it's like try deliverabilityninja.com, and when people go to it, they get redirected to the website.
Mm-hmm.
So most people don't even notice. Like people
Yeah.
don't care. Like
Yeah. And so from a deliverability point of view, then
Mhm.
that's an interesting strategy. So having multiple different domains that are still kind of connected in some way to the name, because you don't want to be completely, as we say in Australia, dodgy, right? But the low volumes, it means that if for whatever reason you start getting blacklisted or put into the spam folder, it only has a minimal impact on that small domain and it can
Mhm.
still get potential penetration through others.
Exactly. So it's diversification. Like if you have a secondary domain and one of them gets affected, you can spin up another one for $12,
Yeah.
right? I'm not sure how much a domain costs in Australia, but it's similar pricing
Yeah.
worldwide.
Yeah.
So easy to switch domains. It's also like now you're flying under the radar
Yeah.
of Google and Outlook because you're getting that volume by expanding horizontally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you talk about, because I know some organizations, when they do email campaigns, they'll just do a massive blast and they'll have technology that does that for them and automation and things like that. When you talk about low volumes around
Mhm.
deliverability, what sort of numbers do you put around that in terms of low volume?
So when I say low volume, I mean low volume per domain.
Yeah.
Now, anything that we've spoken up till this point doesn't talk about how to send good emails.
No, it's
All
just
we're talking
deliverability.
about is how to send emails in the first place, right?
That's it.
The second, third, and fourth steps will talk about good emails
Yeah.
and how to not send mass blasts,
Mm.
even if you're sending 3,000 emails a day.
Yes.
So mass blasts have to do very little with volume, but like how you're sending them. So when I say volume, what we recommend is less than 70 cold emails per day per domain.
Okay.
So what that means is like if you want to send 1,000 emails per day, which is a lot of emails for some companies, you need what, 14 domains?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And it flies under the radar because it's a small volume from the big behemoth that is Google and so forth. Yeah.
Exactly. Like now what you're doing is like instead of using one domain, 1,000 emails a day, you're using 14 domains. So you've like scattered your
Yeah.
volume across.
Yeah. Cool. So that's deliverability. So
Mhm.
when we get into and maybe you're going to talk about this, but I'm curious to know is one of the four steps around identifying your ideal market or your ideal customer.
Mhm. That's the second step.
Okay,
Lead
cool.
list building.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now this one I would argue is the most important step
Yeah.
because the first part of the step is like understanding, knowing who you are selling to.
Mm.
And you'd be surprised, a lot of people don't know that. Like a
Oh,
lot
mate,
of
my
companies,
product is the best in the market. Everybody needs it.
a lot of people, like when we talk to them, the first conversation you have, my question is, who's your ideal market? SaaS companies, Series A, Series B, recently funded. That's my target market. I'm just like, that's everyone's target market. Those guys have money and like, but so that's not how it works. You got to go really granular and understand like who needs your solution.
Yeah.
And how we do this is like when people think of leads or
Hmm.
like emails, they think of individuals.
Yeah.
We like to think about lead list or like finding a target by building a set of accounts first.
Hmm.
So like I personally subscribe to like 10 plus databases, but we can scrape information from anywhere on the internet.
Yeah.
So we do that. We teach that to our clients on how to do that. And we help create a list of target contacts or
Hmm.
target accounts first, and then create a list of target contacts from that.
So, excuse me, you've got different databases that then think, okay, rather than just a SaaS company, say,
Mhm.
right, it's a SaaS company that is, I don't know, a $5 million per year company. They've got X number of sites. And within that, what's the ideal role type or
Mhm.
descriptor of the person who would be liaising with us for this particular service? And so it breaks down.
Absolutely. And it's also like, why that SaaS company? Like, is there a certain trigger that makes them need your solution? Like
Yeah.
for me, the trigger is like if they have deliverability problems or if they're not generating as much revenue from cold email, that's my trigger,
Mm.
right? So like there are certain triggers to like what everyone is selling, and it's just about finding those triggers.
Yeah.
Like for us, just to give you like a example, right? Like this is what we do internally.
Yeah.
Is like it's really hard to tell if someone has deliverability problems without talking to them.
Yes.
So we created a software for ourselves which goes into the domain and checks their technical records. So
Okay.
if their technical records are incorrect, they likely have deliverability problems. And that was like an angle we reached out.
Okay. And
So
when you say a
based on
technical, is it what do you mean by that in terms of do you have visibility of whether it's actually reached its destination?
So a domain has technical records. So a
Okay.
domain has like SPF, DKIM, DMARC that you're supposed to set up for deliverability, apart from like purchasing so many domains. So there are like a lot of small technical aspects I can't cover on like a 1 hour podcast. But
It's going straight over my head anyway, mate. So that's all good.
yeah, so so that's just like an angle, right? Like so ideally you need to define your angles and find like, okay, go more granular, and the more granular you go, the better your responses and the more meetings you get.
Yeah. Because then it has to be targeted. Because the thing with all this is, again, the generalization is, oh, we'll just send out emails to all the SaaS companies in this particular region because we've got a fantastic piece of technology that they need, right? But they've done no research, and it's almost like the spray and pray technique. We'll throw as much out there as we possibly can, and we'll just hope that some of it's going to stick.
It's also like they don't understand why they need them, right? Like the more granular you go, you can tell, okay, like this prospect needs my solution for this reason, and nobody wants a set of meetings they can't sell to. Like
Yeah,
everyone wants a full calendar until they get a full calendar. And I've
yeah,
done this mistakes, right? So like just did that, got a bunch of meetings, 60% of the people were disqualified. Like
yeah,
what a waste of time.
yeah, yeah. And so the purpose is not well, it's to get meetings, but it's to get qualified meetings with the ideal customer who's
Hmm.
hopefully in a buying cycle that they can make a decision.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Like those, your lead list should be like 90% qualified,
yeah,
90 to 95. It's hard to go 100% qualified, but
yeah,
like 90 to 95% of the people you reach out to should
yeah,
be qualified.
yeah. And so with that, how much time do you have to spend with a client
Hmm.
to educate them? Because let's just say you're going to go and speak to uh, a software vendor that
Hmm.
integrates into SaaS companies, and I don't know, let's just take an example. They've got an AI engine that they want to sell. How much work do you have to do in educating your client
Mm-hmm.
on getting really specific on the problem they solve, but also the
Mm-hmm.
ideal customer who has that problem in the marketplace versus them just saying, "Hey, we've got this product. I've got to get it out in the marketplace because I've got to generate revenue." So there's time pressure that's there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, because like I've done this so much, what it typically happens is like before, like we call this like the overview call with our
Hmm.
prospects. 45 minutes before the call, I'm in and I'm doing like really deep research on whatever I can find about that company.
Yeah.
And then it's usually typically like a 1.5 hour call
Yep.
where I'm hammering the prospect, hammering my client down with questions. It's
Yep.
like a lot of questions. I'm trying to cover like 25, 30 questions, and it has sub questions
Yep.
where I'm slowly uncovering their prospects. My
Yep.
first question obviously is like, who's your prospect?
Yep.
And depending on their level of knowledge, it can be less questions or more questions. But it's never like an education part until it's done. It's more of like, hey, I want to ask you some questions. And there's like a very big reason as to why I'm asking those questions,
Yep.
but you'll find out the reason later. Once
So
I have my,
yeah,
go ahead,
go.
yeah.
No, go on.
Yeah, once I have my set of questions, it's like a 2 hour job for me after that to
Yeah.
compile all of that and be like, okay, this would be a great prospect, this would be a great prospect. And then I show it to them and they're like always in agreement.
Perfect. Which then probably leads into the third step, right? But before we do that, I'm really curious, based on the research you do and those conversations that you have over that 1.5 hours, without giving me an exact percentage, but how many potential clients that you speak with
Mhm.
through that process, you realize, and hopefully through the conversation with them, they realize that they're not super clear on who their ideal customer is.
Mm. It's a pretty great percentage. So this is like this conversation happens after we've closed the deal, they've started working with us. So
Yeah.
they're slowly getting a better idea, but almost like I would say like almost 100% of them don't know who their ideal prospect is, or
Yeah.
they don't understand what the lowest hanging fruit is. They
Yeah.
understand who their prospect is, but they don't recognize their lowest hanging fruit.
And I think that in itself is a huge lesson because for anybody listening to this, that's whether you're in a small organization or a big organization, if you spend more time getting really granular to understand who your customer, and we use the customer avatar terminology all the time, but really who your customer is and what their pain points are, it's going to save a lot of time. But it also means that when you're sending out emails, when you're doing the outreach, it's going to be a lot more targeted because you'll end up talking the language that resonates with them because you've got a very clear picture as to who the customer actually is.
Mhm.
Versus, and this is the key point, versus thinking, well, I've got this fantastic product. Why wouldn't anybody want this, right? Because it's not about your product.
Yeah, and surprisingly, like even with growing granular, like most people have a pretty big target market.
Yeah.
Like most companies, obviously there are certain companies with smaller target markets, and them we're probably not a good fit for. But a lot of companies have like really big target markets. They just need to like segregate their lists better.
Yeah. Because I know looking at your website, you've worked with a lot of big organizations and there's a lot of big iconic brands that are across that. And I think there's a few that maybe are in Australia as well. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, so for us, like that's our trophy case. That's the meetings we've booked.
Yeah.
So yeah, like we've helped booked with like enterprise customers, Snapchat, Disney, a lot of them. EXL is one of them. So we've had a lot of like enterprise customers that we've had book meetings with.
I know there's one there, Cisco, where you used to work before prior
Mhm.
to being yeah, so it's really impressive. So the key thing there is number one, deliverability. Be really clear
Mhm.
on that. Number two, identifying your ideal customer and your market and spending enough time on that. And my experience, and I'd like your take on this, is not enough companies spend near enough time analyzing and researching who their actual customer, ideal customer is or target market is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's also hard when you don't know what you're looking for.
Yeah,
Like a lot of problems, it's not like when I ask someone questions, they always know the answer.
yeah,
It's hard for them to like formulate it because they don't understand the scope of research that is possible.
yeah,
Like if I were to ask you like, hey, who are you selling to? What the revenue numbers are, employee size. Okay, you're selling to a sales leader. Are there certain triggers? Like, did they hire a salesperson? Did they not? Almost all founders or almost all leaders know the answer. They just are not able to formulate it together.
that's it. And they don't formulate it to actually create a story
Mm,
or a picture of their perfect customer. So when I do it, when I talk to leaders about their ideal customer, I actually get them to think about a person, a persona. What's the age? What do they do on the weekend? Where do they live? What sort of car do they drive? What sort of clothes do they wear? What sort of watch do they have?
mhm.
Are they an Apple phone or are they an Android type
I
phone
love
user?
that.
All that sort of stuff, right? And people think, why would you go to that depth, that level of detail? Because, well, you do that because you get a really good understanding of, and you don't put a name to it necessarily, but
Mhm,
what happens is your reticular activating system will start to search for those type of people with those sort of characteristics in a sea of sameness that will now
mhm,
come forward. So when you target them,
mhm.
there's a better opportunity of matching what you have to offer.
I love that. I love that so much.
So that's the ideal customer, ideal market. What's the third key step?
The third is the offer slash messaging. So I think Alex Hormozy, not sure how familiar you are, if he's famous in Australia too, but
He is.
uh,
He is.
yeah, the whole goal over email is to create a no-brainer offer.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have that, people are not going to reply. Trust is extremely low over email,
Yeah.
as is in most outbound cases.
Yeah.
So like cold outbound. So like I think a huge portion of what we do is create that no-brainer offer for our clients.
Yeah.
And since we know exactly who we're reaching out to, this can be like multiple mini offers. If they're reaching out in a very competitive market, we're creating lead magnets for them.
Yeah.
This is a hard call. So we're creating sales assets, lead magnets. If it's like super unique as to what they do, like just a no-brainer offer works as well.
Yeah. Okay. And when you talk about a no-brainer offer, because I'm sure it depends on, I guess, the product or the service that you're selling and the market you're selling into, is there like a revenue threshold that you consider that it has to be underneath that would constitute a no-brainer offer, for example, or is the no-brainer offer or the messaging simply to get that prospect to take the next step, which could be just a discovery call?
Yeah, ideally either, right? Like if so the no-brainer offer is like what are you offering? It doesn't have to be the entire service, right?
Yeah,
Like it could be like a mini service too. So what are you offering on your email that is a no-brainer?
yeah,
That's the whole part. So depending on the funnel, the complexity of the sale, the average contract value, it could be a mini step to the next yes.
yeah,
It could be an entire offer altogether.
yeah.
So typically we're running 4 to 5 campaigns and experimenting with all sorts of stuff
Hmm.
that the client thinks can be successful
Okay.
and is doable.
Yeah. And
So
so with that, yeah, go
mhm.
keep that.
Yeah, and so that's like the offer part combined with messaging is like since we've gone so granular, there's a possibility that the founder will find something else no-brainer versus the marketing leader.
Yeah.
And we're able to do that at scale.
And that's because probably coming back to the fact you got those multiple domains that you're doing low volumes that you could then segment and say, right, we're going to send these domains to the founders or these domains to the chief revenue officer, these domains to the chief information officer, for example.
Yeah, so we're not doing that as per such. The domains are just for sending. It really
Okay.
doesn't matter who they reach out to. It's more about the list that we made in step two
Yeah.
that allowed us to go so granular.
Okay. Yeah.
And there's also this concept called spin tax. There's also this concept called spin tax, which helps with deliverability, but there's also this concept called liquid syntax. What that
Liquid
means,
syntax.
liquid syntax. What that means is we can use if-else statements
Okay.
inside an email.
Okay.
So
How does
what
that
that
work?
means, yeah, so what that means is like the 80% of the email is similar, but
Yeah.
20% is different, right? You
Okay.
can use something called, hey, like if Darren is a CEO, send him this.
Right.
Versus if Namit is like a sales leader, send him this.
Right.
So
And
you
that's done in
can
the
do,
database.
yep.
Right. Okay.
So you can use all those if else statements within the email.
Right.
And
Okay.
ideally, like we're using so the step 2 and step 3 to create hyper personalized emails, very specific messaging and offers.
Yeah. And depending on the product,
Mhm.
it has to be a no-brainer. So I'm really curious from a cold email outreach perspective, what do most companies look for? Do they want to go straight to let me try and get some revenue on the door, or how do I turn a cold outreach email into a warm discovery call or a qualification call or a demonstration? What's the thought process there in terms of your experience having done this for a while now?
Yeah, so BTB cold emails are almost exclusively cold email to meeting booked to sale.
Yeah,
And that's the funnel, right? It becomes you're getting sales qualified leads from cold email. You can ideally push people for a demo as well, like an interactive demo or a free trial of a product,
yeah,
but you cannot sell off of cold email.
no, because
Yeah.
it's like
Unless
getting
like yeah,
it's like getting
unless you have so much testimonials and like you're famous all across the world. Like if Taylor Swift was sending cold emails to B2B audiences, I'm sure she would be able to sell.
Mate, my kids, and I've got two daughters, 24 and nearly 21. If Taylor Swift was sending them an email, mate, they'd be getting their credit card out like you would not believe. Because I look at that and I compare that to things like uh, LinkedIn, right? If people send you a LinkedIn request, a lot of it is cold outreach, right? So you're reaching out to connect to somebody. But what's intriguing, I get a lot of uh, LinkedIn connection requests that in the connection request itself,
Mhm,
there's a pitch, right? There's a pitch for their service. So it's all about them, not about me. Now, what I often do is I look at that and have a bit of a look at their profile, and I just accept the invitation to see what they're going to do next. So
mhm,
what's their sales process? What are they going to do? Are
mhm,
they going to try and understand a little bit about me and what I'm doing, or are they going to go straight for the pitch? So, what you're talking about there is in a B2B space in particular, cold outreach is okay, understand this that people are not expecting your email. So, it's just going to drop into your email box.
mhm,
What we have to do from the messaging point of view is we have to have something in there that would be like a little bit of a hook or that's going to pique their interest to say, oh, that's
mhm,
something I've never really thought about. That's really curious. Is this step that they're asking me to do easy for me to take that doesn't cost too much? Now, cost could be dollar or cost could be in terms of time, right? And could I be
absolutely.
bothered? So how does that work? Just take me into I guess the psychology and the work you do with your
Mhm.
clients in order to do that. Because that I reckon that is probably one of the most important aspects. And would you consider that to be the most important of the four steps?
Yeah, I'd say like all four are equally important because like you cannot miss either one, right?
Mm,
If your emails are not delivering to the inbox,
true.
none of this matters. If you're not reaching to the right person, it doesn't matter. If you're not saying the right things, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
So
So let's assume then that we've got the
with this,
deliverability down, we've identified our best customer, ideal
yeah.
customer. You've got to get your offer right. You've got to get your messaging right.
Exactly. So my entire goal is like, okay, tell me the benefits of using your service or product.
Yeah.
Don't tell me the features, tell me what they're gonna get,
Yeah.
right? So, oh yeah, we could have thought of a company to do this, right? So just like 4 or 5 benefits of using your product, and those become your mini no-brainer offers.
Yeah.
The main benefit that you get, whether that's like, hey, I'm going to increase your revenue by 30%, hey, I'm going to do this, hey, I'm going to do that, becomes your no-brainer offer.
Yeah.
Then if you add like a time frame to it, that becomes digestible. So now you have like what they're gonna get. Second, you have and how much time they're gonna get. So their perceived value is high, the perceived time is low.
Yeah.
And the third thing is like the probability it's gonna happen.
Mm.
So either you give them a guarantee or you give tell them testimonials. So if a really famous company backed me, I don't need a guarantee. If I have like hundreds of testimonials in every single B2B company,
Yeah.
but I only have 5 or 6 or 7 video testimonials.
Yeah.
So I have a guarantee that hey, like if we don't do this, you guys don't pay. So
Yeah. I've seen
I
that on your video. Yeah.
yeah, so that's the no-brainer crafting part of it. And then there are lead magnets to it, right? If I'm reaching out in a very competitive industry,
Yeah.
ideally you want to give something for free that your competitors are charging for.
Yeah.
And it's just to build trust, it's just to get them into the funnel so that
Mm.
they'll eventually buy from you down the line when they're ready.
Yeah. And by giving something away for free, it has to be of a high perceived value to the point where your prospects are thinking, wow, if Namit is giving me this for nothing, imagine the value I'm going to get when I pay for something.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's Alex Ramosi 101. That I learned it from him. So I'm sure that you've been in the industry way too longer, so you already understood those concepts. For me, like him, there was the Godfather method as well. So I'm just applying all of that stuff with clients now.
Yeah. And it's fascinating though that even with so-called and inverted commas experienced business people, they still
Mhm.
get caught up in, I guess, the self-importance of not so much themselves, but their offering, their service, their product, their solution. And I say this to teams all the time, it's good to have the Kool-Aid and drink your own Kool-Aid, but you've got to actually have some perspective here that your customers are not interested in drinking your Kool-Aid. What they're interested in is whether you can solve the problem that they have because they've got
Mhm.
their own Kool-Aid. So,
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and it's like another other parts, like tiny parts of messaging is like we typically keep our emails less than 150 words, even sometimes lower than 80 words. We don't talk about ourselves, don't introduce yourselves. They don't care if your company won the global award last year. Like, make it super direct, no fluff, cut out all the fluff from the email. And that's been our philosophy that's worked for us.
and that's a really great point because I know people might be sitting here thinking, okay, when I do a proposal, and just
Mhm.
think, guys, if you listen to this, think of the last proposal you did. How much of that proposal, whether it be the full proposal or at least the executive summary, included lots of information about how good your company is and what awards they've achieved, and understand this, your customers and prospective customers are not caring about that. They don't care about that at all, right? That might have some I guess social proof out there
Mhm.
which you need as an influencing key, but at the end of the day make it really short, sharp, and to the point. So have you found then through the offer and the messaging, is there a certain volume of words that, and it might be like asking how long's a piece of string, but in terms of the effectiveness, whether it be the open rates or the response rates, is
Mhm.
there like a word length of an email that has the best sort of impact?
Oh yeah. So I recommend for like people writing out early maximum 150 words.
Yep.
We try to keep it under 100.
Okay.
And ideally if you strip the email off of like all the fluff,
Yeah.
your offer should not be 100 more than 100
Yeah.
120 words anywhere.
Yeah.
So
Makes sense.
that's the like I don't think I've ever written and unless like obviously like these are just best practices, right? If
Yeah.
you're a really good writer and you actually have important stuff to say, yeah, you can write longer emails.
Yeah.
But then you need to like it's really hard to capture attention, keep attention,
Yeah.
and that's why the shorter the better.
Yeah.
Especially for like relatively like I would say people who are not extremely good at writing, like the shorter you keep it, the more likely they're going to read it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So less is more, and I often say to teams when I'm when I'm facilitating workshops for them, and they use email. I
Hmm.
asked them the question, when you receive an email, and most people have their little preview pane on their Outlook or whatever, when you see somebody write an email and you know that when you open that email, they've got paragraph after paragraph after paragraph, how likely are to want to read that email? Probably not. Versus when you have the preview pane and you
Hmm.
can see the entire email, including the email signature in the preview pane, you're probably more likely to read it and more likely to action it. So less is more.
Absolutely.
Keep it simple.
Absolutely.
Nice. So that's the first three. What's the fourth? Fourth step.
Automate and expand.
Automation.
Automate and expand. So everything that we've spoken about, there's been a lot of manual components to it.
Yeah.
But once you can do something manually and it becomes a repeat task, it can be automated. So what we do is once we've done this entire process, we help companies automate lead list building, automate tying everything back to their CRM, create internal operation processes
Yeah.
so that essentially we're saving them time.
Mm.
And once you're able to do it, like if the target market allows and most people it allows, increase the email volume.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're booking 5 meetings a day by sending 1,000 emails,
Yeah.
you're going to book 10 meetings a day by sending 2,000 emails.
Yeah.
And there's no reason for you not to send 2,000 emails
Mm.
until you cannot, as long as you can handle the 10 meetings, obviously.
Yeah. Absolutely. And presupposing, of course, there's enough prospective customers out there to be able to send that many emails.
I mean, as long as you can make your list last 4 to 6 months, you're fine.
Yeah.
No one is gonna remember your email from 6 months ago. So like people receive way too many emails, so you can reuse lists every 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah. So automation and expansion. And where does well, before I ask the AI question, in
Mhm.
terms then of the number of emails that would be sent out in a typical campaign,
Mhm.
how many emails would be sent to the same person
Mhm.
before an action's taken? So have you got some thoughts around that or stats around that in terms of is it actioning on the one email too? Some people need 5 emails before they do something?
Yeah, so SMBs, if you're selling to like small and medium businesses and your target market list is big enough,
Yeah.
we don't send more than 2 emails.
Okay.
That's it. Just a two-step sequence, either they want it or they don't want it.
Yeah.
There's no point because like the more emails you send, the more likely they're going to spam. And
Yeah.
what we started noticing was our highest responses or positive responses were in the first two emails.
Okay.
So when we eliminated the third email, we could contact more people in like 1 month
Yeah.
because like your email sending capacity is limited, and that increased the number of meetings.
Yeah. Okay.
When you're doing enterprise sales, then you need like a lot more touches. So
Yeah.
it's a combination of calls and emails, and that's spread across like 2 or 3 months.
Yeah. Got it.
But yeah.
Like, and from the automation, the expansion phase, where does AI come into the email outbound campaign?
Mhm.
Is it at the last stage, or do you sort of weave AI through the previous stages as well?
Yeah, AI is a part of all of it, right? Like if you, a lot of what you're automating, so when you're creating offer and messaging, right, that uses AI. When you're
Yeah.
building lead lists, that uses AI to like actually verify contacts at scale,
Yeah.
right? For example, like I was talking to this company the other day, and they sell to dentists doing like general dentists and general practitioners.
Yeah.
So what we're doing for them is we ask AI. So we have a list of websites for dentists. We ask AI to go to their website and find out whether they're like general practitioners or they're like a franchisee or what it is.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
AI kind of weaves into everything.
Yeah.
And the fourth part of it is like mainly like connecting things to the CRM so that nothing's being missed out,
Yeah.
automatically categorizing each reply
Hmm.
so that sales reps are not wasting time looking at negative replies.
Yeah. Got it. Got it. Mate, it sounds like a really robust system. So for people listening to this, and we've nearly got an hour, which is amazing. I know it's getting late over there in New Jersey. So for people listening to this, what is the last piece of, I guess, advice that you'd give? Because a lot of people probably don't think about cold email as a legitimate, I guess, prospecting tool or selling tool.
Mhm.
What would you, and you're probably unique in the, I know there's other organizations doing similar things to you, but you're probably quite unique in that you dedicate the company to cold emails. What would you say to them in terms of advice? If you were advising sales leaders around email, what would be the
Mhm.
advice you would have for them?
Yeah, if it's not working for you, it has to be one of these four pillars.
Yeah.
Like, this is the only four reasons why a cold email works or doesn't work. So, like,
Yeah.
I have never seen a company for whom cold email does not work.
Mm,
Like, even if you have like a website design offer, you can still make cold email work where there is like absolutely no differentiation.
yeah.
So, yeah, like, and if it's not working for me, I'm happy to have a conversation with you guys. And yeah, I'll make it work for you guys.
Love it. Love it. So, Namit, this has been a really educational conversation. So, love the fact you've been able to share so much gold on the Exceptional Sales Leader podcast. For people who want to know more about Deliverability Ninja and specifically connecting with you, where's the best place for them to do that?
LinkedIn, I'm super active on LinkedIn. So
Yep.
if you want to shoot me a message, if you have any questions, feel free to do that. Um, we have a Calendly link on the website as well.
Yep.
So feel free to use that. And yeah, I love meeting new people. I love discussing new ideas. And I absolutely love discussing cold email.
Yeah, it's brilliant, and I can see that just I mean, from this conversation, it's been effortless. So greatly appreciate the value you've brought, and mate, good luck in the future endeavors of Deliverability Ninja. It's been a phenomenal conversation, so thank you.
Yeah, I've had a great time. Thank you, Darren.
Cheers, mate. Thank you for listening to the Exceptional Sales Leader podcast. I trust the information in this episode has been helpful in your journey towards becoming exceptional. And remember, please take the time to rate the show, subscribe to the show so other people can find it. But also, if I can help you, jump on my calendar, go to leadwithdarren.com and let's have a conversation about how I can help you along your journey to being exceptional.